Hello and welcome to the second episode of Econ Freaks. It's me Arun. In this episodes, we're gonna talk about Nepal national debt and budget deficits. So in this video, what I'm putting right now is like what is national debt and what is the budget deficits, and along with that, how we can understand about the national debt and as a Nepalese citizens, how we think about the national debt and what will be the long and short term implications of the national debt. uh, as today, so I'm gonna say one most important numbers, that is $32.2 billion. This is the national debt right now what we have. So as a small size economy just like Nepal, having $42 billion GDP and having $32.2 billion national debt, it means like we are having a lot of economic problems, especially the macroeconomics. So if you are a Nepalese citizen right now, then what you need to think about is like you are having and you have the contributions like 80,000 rupees, so which means a lot for Nepali people. So in this video what we're going to talk about is like how we can create a sustainable fiscal policy in order to fight against the national debt. And also in this video what we can see that how the national debt and the deposit deficits works, and how a country borrow the money from international organizations like the IMF and World Bank, and the foreign nations like we are having a lot of debt from China, India, and other foreign nations. So we will see that, and what will be the long term effect of interest on payments, and then and the net like a balance of payments and all of the things. So in this video it's gonna be it's gonna be a long video but not that long. But I'm gonna cover like a lot of topics related to the national debt and the budget deficit, which are really important in order to understand about like the how it works and how the country economy works. So talking about the national debt and the budget deficits, how it works, and in the situations of Nepal, how we can understand the national debt and the budget deficit. If you budget deficit is technically means that how our import and exports are working. So technically we are more import oriented country, like we imported a lot of items from China and India, especially from India, because our trade relationship with India is like almost 90%. So our exports is not that enough, like we are not exporting a lot of things. So because of that, we are getting a lot of import problems, and also we are getting a lot of balance of payment problems as well. So uh, because of balance of payment problems, we are getting the problems in the national data as well, because our revenue is very less, and we are not earning enough foreign currency, and we are not earning a lot of things from exporting. So because of that, we are getting the national debt problems. So I already told you like we have $32.2 billion national debt, which if we compare with the GDP, that it means like we are having GDP to, like 70% of GDP to debt ratio. So it's technically one of the biggest macroeconomic problems when it comes to understand about the economy. So the country like Nepal, the small size economy, what we need to think that like we have to maintain our we have to maintain our economic conditions and circumstances in a very sound manner. So what we can do in order to alleviate this kind of problems in the near futures? So there are a lot of problems we faced last 10 years, just like the great earthquake in 2015. Because of that, we use a lot of our funds and the amounts in the reconstruction sector, and also we use a lot of our amount for the federalism. So we started to reconstruct our federal system. So we diversified our country to seven different states, and also we started to use our resources and started to allocate our resources in seven states. So because of that as well, like we are getting a lot of problems, because we need to allocate the money for the federal states, and the we need to provide them the bureaucrats and a lot of things. And the last things what we got is that the terrible things is a COVID-19. So in the COVID as well, like the government got a lot of expenditure pressures, especially in order to buy the vaccinations and run a different kind of COVID related programs. So these are a lot of things which are really important from for helping the national debt to increase. So when it comes to the elevations, then what you can think is that the national debt is not good for the country's fiscal health. So the policymakers need to think about very different approaches and then third dimensional ways. So policymakers need to think about how they can decrease the GDP to debt ratio in order to make the very sound fiscal policy. I know that when it comes to the fiscal policy, Nepal fiscal policy is more related to the making basis, not in the implementations basis. So the what policymakers think need to think is like they need to implement this kind of policy in order to achieve the long and short term economic goal of a country. So the first things are what I can suggest for the policymakers and the politicians and the economists who are working on this, especially the Rashtriya Yojana Ayog, like National Planning Commissions of Nepal, is that addressing the fiscal policy can help them to increase the total revenue of a country and decrease the expenditure of the country, which is especially really important. We are just focusing on the taxes, not focusing on the revenue basis, because we know that our country has a lot of potential when it comes to the export basis of hydroelectricity and the and also with cyber and and also in the software management and a lot of things. But we're not putting a lot of resources on that. So because of that, this kind of policy also helps them to enhance to understand about the how it works. And another things what I can suggest them is like we are paying a lot of interest rate, like IMF and World Bank. They are contributed a lot of money as a loan, and also our foreign, like also our like neighboring nations like China and India. They also like contributed a lot of money as a loan. So we need to think like we got a loan, not like the amount and grants. So we need to pay back, and we need to pay back with interest rate. So it means that we have a lot of responsibility. So in order to make the sustainable fiscal future of Nepal, we need to understand like these all things are more important, and then every Nepalese people need to understand that like the how the national economy works and then how the national debt is working. Because I already mentioned that like we have $80,000 loan per head. So if you are Nepalese citizens right now, you are having 80,000 rupees, not in dollar. I'm sorry for that, but 80,000 rupees per head. So it means like as a country staying like 15% to 20% poverty and having like 80,000 rupees date is one of the challenging factors. So these all are the things that what we need to understand in order to know about the national economy. So I hope that you understand this video and you enjoy this video. Okay, I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.